Call to order the Vernon Township Municipal Utilities Authority meeting. Public statement pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 213, 1975, adequate notice as defined in Section 3D of Chapter 23 IPL 1975. This regular meeting was provided to the public and the press on December 22nd, 2020, by delivering to the press such notice and posting in the municipal building and filed with the Office of the MUA, as well as posted on the website. Flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of members and professionals.
Paul Carney,
Present.
Andrew Pitzer,
Present.
Dave McDermott,
Here.
Kristen Wheaton,
Present.
and Scott Galway is absent tonight. We have Don Albright, the administrator, Rich Wenner, the attorney, Rob Bench, the auditor, Steve Banowski, the engineer, Howie Lazier, the licensed operator, and myself, Jack McCabe, the recording secretary.
I do want to make note too that we also have Brian Tipton, our special counsel. He's on right now. So you'll need to take a nomination for chairperson and then a nomination for vice chair. We'll need first and second and votes for both.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna have to have nominations for a for chairperson and a vice chairperson. So I'll open up to the board.
I'd like to nominate you, Paul McDermott. Paul Carney as Carney as chairperson for the MUA.
We need a second. Go ahead.
Second by
Dave McDermott.
Chairman.
Oh, we
All
could,
in favor? Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Can we have some discussion?
sure.
Sure. Absolutely.
I guess is there, I guess there's been a change. Usually this would be conducted during the reorganization meeting, right?
Okay, yeah. So Mike Fury resigned the position.
Okay. Thank you. So for my vote, yes.
and Paul Carney.
Can I vote for Mike?
Can you?
yes, yeah. Mhm.
Yes. And I need a nomination for vice chairperson, please.
Can I just jump in there real quick, Paul?
Sure, absolutely.
Let me just go ahead and swear you in. This is, as chair, you should be sworn into the position. And then we go ahead and entertain the nomination for vice.
Do I need to stand?
You don't need to stand. You don't need to do anything but repeat after me and raise your right hand. I, Paul Carney,
I, Paul Carney,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey.
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
I will bear fair truth and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
And I will faithfully,
And I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of the office of Chair of the VTMUA
of the office of the chair of the VTMUA
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Very good. All right, I'm done.
Okay. So now we need a nomination for vice chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Andrew Pitzer.
I'll second that.
Okay. Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsger,
Abstain.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton.
Yes.
I will accept the nomination.
Okay.
Should have done that before the vote, huh?
I was waiting to see if anybody else was interested. So,
So Rich, does he have to get sworn in also now?
No, Paul, just for the chair. So we're good.
Okay. Do we want to go to executive right away? Or do we want to hold that?
I think we should go to executive. I don't think it's gonna be long.
suggestion, because I don't know how long we're going to be there.
Sure.
They're not, the system is like not working.
May I make a procedural suggestion that
Sure.
we give the chance for the public to comment on both the agenda items
We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that first. Okay.
in case we're going to be extended so that
Okay,
give them an opportunity. Is that okay with you?
absolutely. So we'd like to open the meeting to the public for agenda items only. If public has anything, please let yourself be known on the Zoom or step forward.
Motion.
We need a
Second.
second. Yep.
So I did not receive any correspondence. I do not have anyone raising their hand, and nobody in the audience is raising their hand.
See no one stepping forward. We'll close the public portion for agenda items at this time.
What- I'd just like to clarify that one of the attendees is by phone. Maybe they can't raise their hand. I'm not sure.
That's Mike.
Oh,
And you can click, go ahead and click allow to talk.
okay.
The person who's on the phone, I don't know if they can hear me. I don't even think he can talk because it's not on a computer.
Yeah.
It asked to unmute. You can maybe try that. I don't know.
This is all new with the hybrid meetings is learning.
Yeah, how to get it to work like this.
So I think I've just unmuted that person.
Yeah, we have it unmuted over here. I don't know if they can hear, if they can speak though.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Now.
We weren't sure if you had anything to say because you can't really raise your hand with your phone.
No, I have nothing to say.
Okay, all right, sorry. Okay, so we move on to
With that, I'll make the
executive.
motion to close the public session for now. for the
Motion to
agenda
close
items.
the public session? Public.
Second,
And at this time, we'll go back to number 6. We'll go into executive session for the purpose of litigation and contract negotiation discussion.
make
You
a
see a
motion to go
motion?
into executive session.
I'll second.
Okay. Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsger.
Yes.
Okay,
Guys,
so,
oh, I'm sorry. Would you like me in here or would you like me to exit?
well, so we have to keep this meeting on, like that's what we're required to do, but we
Okay.
are all going to, I'm going to ask the board members to leave this meeting, as well as Rich and Brian. We'll leave this meeting. We'll go into the link for closed session and then we'll come back in. We shouldn't be long, Rob.
All right.
Okay? I mean, hopefully. Now I'm going to say that we're in there forever.
These are the hockey pucks for the speaker for Zoom. You have one there.
Everybody on?
I think everybody's here.
Is everybody here?
I'm here.
Looks like everyone's here. I could make a motion to reconvene the public portion of this meeting.
Motion to reconvene the meeting from, first close the executive and reconvene this.
To close the executive session
And I think it's reconvene the meeting.
Motion to close the executive
at first, just to be sure.
It's a motion to reconvene.
and motion to
To
reconvene.
reconvene the public meeting.
I will second the motion.
Ernie,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Hey,
I just wanted to make note, so we are adding a resolution to the agenda, and I just want to let the public know that it's resolution, it will be resolution number 21-62. And it's authorizing an employment contract for a new sewer repair. Sure, it's not, these microphones are not on, like they're not working. That's okay. I'll just say it louder so that everyone can hear. We're adding a resolution and the resolution will be 21-62. So that resolution was not in the original agenda. This resolution 2162 is authorizing an employment contract for a sewer repair. This is to replace one who has already put in his notice for the end of the month. So this is just a replacement, right?
So let's go to the approval of bills. Has everybody had a chance to look over the bills?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions?
No
Questions?
question, no questions.
Can someone make a motion?
Motion to approve the bills that are posted.
Hey, Andy,
Second that motion?
second by Dave.
Okay, Paul Carney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to move the approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting? And do you have any questions on those minutes?
No comments.
Someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 18th.
And I'll second that.
Paul Carney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Moving down the agenda. Resolution number 2158, approving late introduction of the 2022 budget. Did you have a chance to look at it?
So this is just to let everybody know, we do this annually for our municipal utility authority. The statutory date is in November. So because our budget usually runs from January through December, we introduce it later than some other authorities. So we just have to pass this approval for a late introduction of our budget before we do a resolution introducing our budget.
And when do we anticipate that we'll actually be able to introduce?
It's tonight.
Tonight, we're, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to you guys if you want. Yes.
Well, we haven't approved it yet, so, but it's
Right.
anticipated that we'll do it tonight, but the latest we can do it for?
Technically, we're already past the date. I mean, Rob, I don't know if you have a comment on this, but really for our purposes to be able to run the MUA, we need to make sure we have a budget in the next, like in January.
And discuss that in a few minutes.
Right.
Correct, yeah, and this is kind of, think of it more as a housekeeping measure. To Danelle's point, there is a 60-day, or the authority is supposed to introduce the budget before at least 60 days before year end. It is common enough practice for especially authorities with tight budgets to push that a bit later. But this is necessary if we are going to, at this point going forward.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 21-58, approving late introduction of the 2022 budget.
I'll second that.
Paul Kearney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsger,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton.
Yes.
Resolution 2159, 2022 authority budget resolution.
So this would be for the introduction of the budget. I can just go over really quick some points in the
Please do.
budget. Andrew and I met as members of the finance committee to discuss our budget for 2022. Obviously, the goal here, there's a few things to keep in mind. One, we are very cognizant and aware of the increasing rates and the hardship that might prevent some of our ratepayers. So with that in mind, we had to address the budget and the large increase, the 3% increase from SCUMA that they put on us this year. That being said, we have opted to increase additional funds that we receive from SCUMA through rate stabilization, which actually come from connection fees that new EDUs, they pay a connection fee. So we did get some last year. So we're using some of those funds from this year to help offset that. We're also using some of our net position on the town side. I like to call it fund balance, but so it's net position with the MUA. So we are using additional funds from that to help offset a rate increase again this year. I'm going to be honest with the board as the CFO, I don't recommend using $130,000 from net position. We've had this discussion, Andrew and I talked about it. And I know the auditor can speak to this too. My concern, and we've all discussed this, is that in 2023, we have a very large SCUMA bill coming due. We'll have a $525,000 increase in the SCUMA rate for debt service. So, we tried to build up our net position to help to cushion that blow in 2023. So while we do have funds that are moving to net position at the end of this year, I try to keep the amount that we use minimal. And by using the 130, it will keep rates stable and we will not have a rate increase. But I just wanted to, caution the board and using that because that only lasts for so long.
I'd like to take this discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just to, I agree with Danelle's points here. And 2023 is a big factor. Right now, we have been able to utilize net position due to certainly staying within budget, actually being under budget in the last few years, which has provided us some breathing room. But obviously 2023 is something that needs to be considered. And I think as long as some of the revenue forecasts that were projected for 2023 do come in as planned, and some of the I know the finance committee and Danelle had certainly been looking at this for some time. I think if we see that revenue coming in, this is not an issue. But right now, by utilizing this a lot, we don't have a lot of breathing room going into next year.
Yeah, so to speak to what Rob was saying, I know the MUA is obviously, we're all working on other sources of revenue to kind of generate other sources of revenue, and we have a few ideas for that. So with that being said, as long as those come to fruition, I feel it makes me feel more comfortable. But just, we just have to keep in mind that if we keep spending the way we're spending, which is good, we're looking out for all of the dollars and cents that come out of this budget, and we try and keep a tight budget. As long as we're doing that, that's a positive thing. We are able to put things aside and have that net position and that cushion. But when we use from it, obviously that depletes,
Just a quick question here. Now, we're going to use about $130,000 based on this proposal.
Mhm.
How much is left in net position if we do that as of right now?
It would be 500,000, around 500. Yeah. And that's in the budget. And then I anticipate that we will have some at the end of this year to put back into there as well.
And that's the risk we're going to take, because when we looked at this, there's a lot of moving parts that are going to come, but as you just saw, probably if you've read the advertiser that went out today, Sussex, the town, they've done the same thing, is that they were able to stabilize their rates for a couple of years instead of taking any rate increases. And this year, it all of a sudden is smacking their face for 4%. So we're taking a risk here, anticipating that we're going to see more revenue coming up. I'm okay with that, but as I said, is that if we were to say to take half of what SCUMA is giving us, or let's take 2%. 2% to a regular homeowner would be about $20 more a year. That's the way I looked at it with you. And that's based on one EDU. So we may get caught in a crossfire later on if we decide to go this route. And I'm okay with it, but I think putting it on the table for not just us, but the record for the public is to understand we can hold the rate for another year, but I don't know what's going to happen next year. So we could be in the same situation that the town of Sussex is in today. So if there's any other comments about that, that's a concern and scenario I have.
Average EDU per household.
I'm sorry, say it again.
What's the average EDU per household?
Depends on how many
I
bedrooms.
understand, I know that, but.
So a single bedroom is 0.6, a 2-bedroom is 0.8. A lot of the condos are classified as 2 bedrooms because they're a bedroom with a loft.
Right.
And then a 3-bedroom is a full EDU.
So $20 is the high end, basically.
Not necessarily, because if you look at our big users like the, Acme and Minerals and those, they're going to get hit with a larger amount because they pay a bigger amount. So the impact to them is going to be higher as well. And one of the problems I have with our rates, because of the way SCUMA charges us, is that it is definitely an issue because it's impeding business coming in. And I'm really concerned about that. So, I mean, I really don't want to raise the rates. And you and I explored the possibilities. Could we have 2 rates, one for commercial, one for residential? And we said, well, we could, then maybe take a little softer blow on businesses, but at the same time, we want to make sure everybody does their fair share. So like I said, me personally, I can see us using the 130 and then working towards trying to add more connections. Hopefully in the future, some expansion is coming from other areas, but making everybody aware of the whole situation as we sat down. We analyzed this from different angles. And I mean, I was pushing 2%, but we have this net position available. It's a risk. And that's my concern, is that we would be taking a risk if we say no budget increase.
Right.
Well, projected revenue isn't guaranteed.
Nope.
There's been, since I've lived up here, there's been a lot of projected revenues that didn't transpire. So, some of them now sound more realistic than some in the past. So, there's that. But either way, 2023 is around the corner.
Mhm.
It's gonna have to be dealt with either starting now or next year, unless something major happens in between. There's gonna have to be some kind of a rate increase.
Mhm.
So it's, pay now or you pay later, or these projected revenues come in the middle there and kind of at least even it out for a little bit, but who's to say?
How long did it take us to accumulate the net position that we have? If I understand correctly, it's about 500K plus the 130 right now.
Yes, correct.
How long did it take us to accumulate that?
I'd probably say 2018 forward.
Yeah, we
Right,
had-
Rob, that sounds about right? I think when I
We-
got here, there was like 84 or something.
Correct, yeah. There were a lot of ups and downs before then, but I think probably 2018, 2019 is when we started really seeing a lot of budget savings and that started to build.
And do we expect some of that savings to continue? I know we've had some efficiencies and that are kind of, one-off. I guess, how much do we forecast, I guess, to continue
Right.
in terms of being able to continue that sort of savings and generation of net position?
I think this upcoming budget, I did give some detailed paperwork in the last email I sent today so that you guys can see the individual line items we have. We had to move some money around. I tried to make it so that it was closer to, what we've expended in the past year. I mean, savings for something like an MUA, you're only going to see it, if you're not spending everything that you've budgeted, right? We do need some flexibility in case things come up in the year. We have to transfer, if there's an emergency and we have to put more into pumping expenses, we need to be able to account for that. So there is like some flexibility in these numbers. And again, I tried to make it, as close to what we've expended in the past. But that being said, I mean, I think we're all very much aware of the increasing costs of everything right now. I think our average increase just generally, I mean, at home, I think is around 7%. It's close to 7% this year across all categories of expenditures. So I don't see the cost of anything that we're spending, that we're buying this year going down next year. I can only expect that going up. But I've left enough space in here to account for those increases and to also, still be able to hopefully put some away. But, I can't tell you what the future brings, right? I can do my best to kind of forecast what I think it's going to be. But I'm fairly confident with the way that this is budgeted. I'm not fairly confident. I'm very confident with the way this is budgeted. I think we'll be okay for next year.
The 130,000, which is the net position, how much does that represent in an increase? Take the 130 out and say, we're going to pass the increase on to rate holders. What would it be?
I'd have to work.
Bear with me one sec.
You're throwing that at me. 130, what is it? 130. Like 16, 12, $81 per EDU.
It would be how much?
81 per EDU.
So it would be more $81 per EDU.
Per EDU. That's does that seem about right? I think so. It's like a 5.7% increase.
That's without taking the money out, and with taking the money out, it's 20. So is that what we're looking?
No, we're not increasing at all with taking them. Yeah.
Taking the 130 out, but if we were to pass that, instead of taking the 130 out of net, you were to pass the total increase along
Like a 5.7%.
5.7.
That seem right, Rob?
It doesn't
Yeah,
seem,
I think I came up
That's
with,
the one.
correct. Yeah, but I've got about 5%. I came up
Yeah.
a little bit under that.
that's the impact it could have. That's what could explode on us if we don't increase our rate user base.
Right. So, right. We need connections, and the MUA has always known that we need more connections.
And anticipating on what some future issues are coming up with the businesses, there's the possibility.
Right.
That's it.
And then, the board has also done a really good job. I mean, they've reduced connection fees to make it more appealing. So, I think we'll probably see some. I mean, I think just from looking at the township, I think we'll start to see more businesses in town center. I think that there's some opportunities. We'll see.
Dave and Kristen, any comments or thoughts?
I guess I've asked my questions, the main question that I had. I would tend to rely on the advice of our CFO and our professionals.
Mr. Chairperson, I'd just like to ask one favor. Could we open it up to the public and see if they have an opinion?
I don't object to that.
That'd be okay with the rest of you?
Sure.
Or if anybody in the public is interested in either standing up or from raise a hand, I'd appreciate to hear from you.
Okay, I have Peg DeStassi.
Sure.
Hi, thank you for opening it up, Andy. It's a good idea. Listening to the conversation, I have reservations here, as I think I hear in your voice. You know, you're going to slam with a huge increase down the road to make it look like you're doing a good job now. I think you, in my own opinion, as a homeowner and a budget keeper, I would rather have a little now and a little later and a little more later, so that I can manage my monies in a more frugal way. I think by trying to hide the fact that down the road there are going to be some major, everybody in town knows there are going to be major decisions made down the road. I think it's time to start planning for those and letting the people that are on the system start budgeting for it. And so by giving them a small increase now and another small increase next year, you're working towards your goal. Just my opinion. Thank you for accepting it.
Thank you, Peg.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
I have Jesse Palladini.
Okay,
Oh. Sorry about that.
Is this comment just on the budget?
current, right now, yes, that's what we're talking
Right now?
about.
Okay. Yeah, I really didn't think about it before Peg mentioned it, but I have to say that I have to agree. I think you've been touting that you haven't had budget increases, and it's because you've been using surplus or whatever, and then you're gonna hit people with this huge increase. You're making it look like, look what a great job we're doing. We cut expenses, we haven't had increases, and then you're gonna hit everybody next year when you know that's the most difficult year. What are you gonna do then? I think you ought to give it to people a little at a time. Look, everybody knows utilities go up. Everyone knows it. I was the recording secretary for this MUA for 9 years, and I was there at the beginning, and I know how people got up and jumped up and down and screamed and hollered and all that. But the reality was that the rates were right in line. I did not agree with charging EDUs. I always felt, of course, I was just a secretary, I had no say. I always felt that you should put meters on everybody's water and sewer and charge them based on actual use. The meters would have cost maybe $200 per household, and you could have passed that cost on to each person. But to do it by EDUs, it just seemed arbitrary because, some were paying too much, some were paying too little. But the truth of the matter is that Vernon was always in line with Sussex and Sparta and other municipalities. Vernon was never much higher or arbitrary or anything like that, like some people said, and you're going to always have that. And there are always increases in utilities. Look at our gas prices now. Gas, oil, heat, electric. So I don't think you should be keeping the increase now just so that you could say, look at what a good job we've been doing, and then hit them with everything next year. Again, this didn't occur to me until Peg started talking about it, but I agree with her 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse.
Jesse.
All right.
Raising her hand again.
Anybody else?
All right,
Peg has her hand up again.
let her speak.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I agree. I kind of agree with Andy that maybe it's time to consider commercial as well as in residential a split. I think it might be time to, up until now, you've been doing everybody at the same level, but maybe the time has come that you need to look at commercial use versus residential use. It might benefit you. That's all. Thank you.
I think that's something we could explore, see if it's something that can be done, if it's feasible, and if it's the right way to go. And I think we spend a little more time looking into that. I don't even know, is that legally, can that be done?
What are you talking about? A different commercial rate, versus a residential? Yeah, you can do a different commercial than a residential.
We played around with that and tried to figure out what's something we could do now. We need a little bit more time to really put a good model together because the model's not.
We might also need some more commercial to offset
Oh, yeah.
the reduction too. So if we get more commercial in town, I think that it might be more plausible at that point in time. Because you could split the load amongst more users.
So when you say commercial versus residential, you're talking about charging a different dollars per EDU? Because they're
Yes.
all, I mean, they already use more EDUs as commercial users.
And they already make up a bulk of the revenue that comes in
Right.
because
Yeah.
they take so much.
Well, you already started looking into it. So I mean, if somewhere along the line, it's something that could be done and it would benefit everyone. I'm sure that if it made sense to do it, we would do it. I don't know that right now is the time though.
So I know we can't put out a 5% increase here, which is what you're talking about, but can we meet, and this is what can we meet halfway and maybe say 2% as a price increase for 2022?
That's kind of what I was leaning towards. Or split it, at the beginning of the year, have it at a couple percent and then let the people know that, halfway through the year, it's gonna go up another percentage. Doesn't have to be in one shot. It's like, okay, January this, June that. This way it's not all in one fell swoop.
That would be less out of pocket to the ratepayer.
For a short period of time, but eventually,
Yeah, over the course of the year it would be.
right.
Danelle's sitting there doing calculations. Throwing you.
Killing me, man. You're killing me.
Huh?
Killing me.
Later, but that's okay. I'm trying to do what's right here.
Okay, so this is, we can introduce with a 2% rate increase, like I can do that. I don't want to give exact numbers on here because I will update the paperwork to reflect a 2% rate increase across the board. I just don't want to discuss what that number is because I want to be sure.
You just did it quick.
Yeah, I trust my Excel better than my cell phone. So we can do that. So the 2% rate increase on a 14 brings it to 1443.30 per EDU.
1443 per EDU.
That I trust on my cell phone. That one's easy enough to do. So we can introduce with that rate increase. I will adjust all the numbers. The total dollar amount though, the total proposed is $2,744,296 in revenue. That's going to be different though now. Sorry. The total appropriations will stay the same, but the revenue will be different because we'll be doing that increase. And then the amount from net position will change based on the numbers that I gave you here. So we'll still be using some from net position, but it won't be nearly as much as what we used, correct?
It's kind of what we said the other day when we were talking. Yeah.
Split the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, we still are going to take more out of net position. We're not taking half of it out, but I think it's at least there's a give and take on both sides that way. What's the rest of the committee think? Chris? She looks like she's offline again.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I I disagree somewhat with some of the comments that were made that suggest we're trying to make it like we've been, like we look good now. Because we have done a good job in assembling that position through the various savings ways of saving that have been implemented. But yeah, I feel like we should save more for a rainy day because we know that rainy day is going to come. So I'm in favor of splitting it the way it's being discussed.
I mean, we've done a great job we're doing more preventive maintenance now than we ever have, and that's actually costing us on the end less.
Right.
We put more money into capital improvements now because that's where you stop the breakage before it happens. And that's why we leave it where it is.
Yeah, that's what your asset management plans are in place for.
Exactly.
Save, you spend nothing's a little in this business, but you spend a smaller amount here to save on the big one down the end. So the preventative maintenance is definitely saving us money, without a doubt.
So could I make a motion that we adjust the budget? Maybe I should let me rescind that motion. Let's get an opinion from our other financial person on the other end.
I agree with Danelle's comments here. I mean, this is, and actually everyone's comments. Right now the budget as is, it's, there are a lot of unknowns. Again, if things go as planned, this is a non-issue. It also gives you some room for future rate stabilization if things go as planned. The 2% increase will at least give you a bit more breathing room going into 2023, along with our existing net position that we have that's available for budget that we haven't utilized. And it's based on the public comments. I think one point was made that people do anticipate small increases in their utility bills, and it's not unreasonable to see this in your rates. So those are my brief comments.
And on that, I agree. There's none of our bills in life are stable. From your cable bill to, well, gasoline, obviously. People can't expect their rate to stay the same forever. That's just not going to happen. And the thought of not hammering with one huge increase a year or two from now is probably not the way to go. And if the rate increases have to happen and we do it incrementally, it will be easier for the folks paying these bills to adjust and their budgets accordingly.
Okay, so then we would.
No one wants to raise anybody's rates, but I mean, sometimes that's just the way life goes, unfortunately.
Well, if there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion that we take a rate increase of 2% as a minimum and a maximum of 3%.
Can we just?
I guess we have to nail it down, huh?
We just, yes,
Yeah.
please. You got it.
Danelle, any suggestions there where we? I know you'd like.
My choice.
I always said take 2, so I'm going to go with that. Let's reduce the burn just a little bit. It's not going to take it all the way, but I'd like to make a motion for a 2%.
Hold on a second.
Rob has a
Actually,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys. One comment here. Now, as far as tonight's budget, though, before we introduce this, we would need to have a rate hearing on that 2% increase, and it's something that that would be something that we do have to advertise 20 days beforehand. That would be something that we'd have to have next meeting. So if it's something that we are introducing, I'm just wondering if we would be able to get DCA or local government service approval on it. Now we can mention that we that we have the intent, we have things in motion on the introduced budget. But this might be something if we are, if we are considering it, we could certainly introduce this budget as is tonight, or I'm sorry, with that percent increase. But we may have to hold off a bit on the adoption until the rates actually are approved by the board.
Okay.
We can, Rob, if for some reason we don't get notification before the 20th, our next meeting that's scheduled for adoption, could we hold a special meeting? Oh, no, because we have to do a publication for the rate hearing.
Well, yeah, the other thing we have the option of doing too is, as far as going into 2023, and I know here we're in December, we can always do a temporary budget.
Okay.
Where, even if we're, recognizing that temporary budget for the first few months or first quarter, and we could do that tonight, even based on the document that, the budget that was circulated. We could do it, with the idea of a 2% in mind. And then, when we do have the rate in place, once we do have the rate hearing, then move forward with everything officially on the DCA side. That is an option.
Okay, so that's up to you. If you guys want to, you can take a preliminary step tonight to basically pass like a vocal resolution. Is it like to adopt a temporary budget for the start of 2022?
Yeah, or just to approve a temporary budget for the start of 2022.
And we can have that equate to, let's say, 25% of what this year's budget is.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, similar to what we do for the township. I just usually have it written out for the township.
Correct.
Okay, or I could always do that at the next meeting if you wanted to do that at the next meeting, so you could see what that is, just in case we don't have time for the.
Sorry to put more work up here, but I think it's the right thing to do.
I think so too.
Okay.
Now can we?
You're killing me tonight.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Now you have it recorded.
So what are we going to vote on then?
Well, you do need to, we still introduce the budget.
Exactly.
What Rob was saying is that when we introduce the budget, because of this rate hearing, it just might take longer to go through DCA because DCA has to approve that, right? And you need, we meet the date criteria. It has to be 20 days before, we have to advertise 20 days before the rate hearing. So we will meet that. That's not a problem. It's just a matter of getting DCA approval before we can approve it.
And that's what I imagine. And we can, once we submit it, we can also, we'll have conversations with local government service just to let them know what the authority's intent is, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so we would just need, if this is what the board want to do, we would just need a motion to introduce the budget with that 2% change in the rate calculations. And I will make all the adjustments as necessary.
Kristen and Dave, are you on with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion in a second if that's what you want to do.
Okay, yeah, I just want, before you
Okay.
make a motion to pass temporarily.
Oh, no. So you would make a motion to introduce the budget with the 2% changes that I need to make in the calculations.
Make
You
a
could just say
motion
what
to
I said.
Introduce the budget with the 2% changes that will be forthcoming.
Yes.
Motion to do so.
I will second it.
Okay, Paul Carney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton.
Yes.
That was long.
Oh,
Sorry to make it so painful. but
Okay.
It's important. It's
Damn
I
important.
just want to make a note of the next resolution that's coming up. There's just a minor change. The January 20, says January 21st on the meeting dates. It should be January 20th. It's just that one date didn't get changed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so resolution 2160, resolution designating meeting dates for 2022 with the change to January 20th. Somebody make a motion? Have a motion?
Motion to approve the calendar for 2022.
Second?
Second.
Paul Carney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott. Kristen Wheaton.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and 2162, which is this one right here, authorizing employment.
Resolution 2162, authorizing employment contract. Do I put his name on the record?
You could say
With
Deshaun.
Deshaun Smith as a sewer repairer. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve resolution 2162.
Second. Go ahead, Dave. Have a second by Dave McDermott.
That's for the hire of Deshaun, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
Carney,
Yes.
Dave McDermott,
Yes.
Andrew Pittsger,
Yes.
Kristen Wheaton.
Yes.
Moving along. Work session. New business. Discussion on infrastructure.
Mr.
Mark-
Chairman,
Yes, please.
I think we skipped resolution 21-61.
That one was, we're pulling that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
New business. Discussion on infrastructure to market Vernon Township for new development.
We can invite Jen Hopper, and I'm sorry, I totally forgot your first name. Sorry, what was the last name? Salingo. I did not want to, I have it on my Facebook, and every time I see it, I'm like, I will mess that name up if I have to say that. If you guys, you guys can come up if you want. Hi.
Hello.
And this is kind of like an open forum discussion. I mean, the last meeting that we had, we talked about how it might be important to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce and kind of discuss what we can do to, maybe as the MUA or maybe and that could help with the whole township, what we can do to help kind of market Vernon Township. I mean, you heard before our discussion about connections and the importance of bringing businesses to town center and like what we can kind of do.
So we've been very successful in doing a lot of grand openings lately. So the good thing is people are opening businesses. Not every single one of them is storefronts, but for the most part have been. We do receive feedback from people. I see it in my professional business as well as from the board.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Mr. Chairman, I think it's traditional for the individuals to identify themselves and their residents and who they're representing.
Okay, so my name is Jennifer Hopper. I am the president for the Vernon Chamber of Commerce. I live in Highland Lakes. Do you need a specific address?
No.
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, and I also work in town here as well.
Yes, hi, I am Stephanie Salingo. I am the vice president of the Vernon Chamber of Commerce. I also own a business here, Executive Insurance, and I also live here in Vernon, in Sussex.
Thank you.
Some of the things, of course, is a concern for a lot of residents as well as new businesses coming in town. In this case, we're looking to attract new businesses, is the fact that the development of the home sewage into town. And I know that we do have, some of the landowners that have the commercial properties for sale. It is very difficult for attracting a new business to come in when those hookups are not already there. And the potential business owner is thinking about how are they going to afford these expenses when they can go to a surrounding town and kind of bypass that to where that is available for them, or unless they don't need to hook up. So that has been a challenge, and it is what it is. So it's hard. It is an expense. It is going to cost money for regardless. So how do we pay for it? Do we do it to where I remember Harry Shortway had come in and done a presentation when he was first elected as mayor, and he came in and did a presentation for us and saying, look at 2 different ways of doing it: attracting new business to be able to use those EDUs, or is it to where we have to spread it out through the entire township of all the residents, including those who are not being hooked up to it. As a homeowner in town, my personal standpoint for that, my opinion, I should say, would be something happens to my sewer, my septic, my well, that's on me. This is something that we have to, as a taxpayer, having to pay for these expenses when we're not even the ones that are hooked up to it. So of course, as a taxpayer, I don't personally want to do it. as the Chamber of Commerce, of course, we want to be able to attract those new businesses in. So how do we go ahead and do it? Sometimes we need to spend money to be able to make that money. Some of the feedback though, also too, is some of the red tape that we have here in Vernon, is when a new business owner comes in, it's being a bit challenging. Andrew, I know you and I had a conversation with another new business owner who was having some of those challenges here. And I know there's always multiple sides to that, but just from over the years and hearing what my clients have told me, and what I've also witnessed from the Chamber of Commerce, is that it can be a little bit difficult to do business with. We're not forthcoming with all the information that is needed. For example, I want to open up a business. Okay, this is the permit you had, this is what the expense is, and this is what you need. Once they come in, okay, great, they get that, they turn it in, then they're handed something else. And this is a back and forth that goes on quite a few times, so that's frustrating. If maybe we can be upfront of what all those costs would be for that particular business, that type of business, where they're moving in. And then also to just have from the beginning to the end, maybe a timeline and what stages in which they need to submit plans, permits, things like that, just so they know from the beginning to the end, and when they're going into it, can I afford to do this? And what my timeline is. I've had, it was years ago, unfortunately, she opened and she's been closed already. But she had been paying rent to her landlord and still for 2 months and was not able to open her business. So now she's using her savings in order to be able to do that. And that was very taxing on her. The other is, now I will say this, I've been coming into this working with the township on a professional basis for over 18 years now. I enjoy when I come in here, everybody, there's smiling faces, everybody's been friendly and very welcoming to me. Feedback that I have heard is that personality-wise, it's challenging. They hit roadblocks and they're asking for help and they're getting pushback and they don't feel that they're being treated very nicely. I think it's a customer service standard that we have to have across the board. Again, personally, I've always experienced a positive demeanor whenever when I have to, but I'm here as a professional. I'm not here trying to open up a business. So I think that we can look at some of the customer service standards a little bit because we don't want to push anybody away because they say, why don't I go to Warwick? Why don't I go to Franklin? Why don't I go to Hamburg? We don't want them to go there. We want them here. Did I leave anything for?
I can repeat it, but that's
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
And that's basically what we're hearing. So obviously the financial part, how do we get the sewers and the sidewalks in there is something larger, but I think there's a few minor things as far as giving someone a packet and a customer service, that's a good start in a more positive way. Because one of the things also too is as people network and they go through an experience, they're going to spread that, and you know the bad spreads better than the good. And faster too, yes.
Yeah, the point you made about not being on the sewer system and potentially getting taxed for the sewer system. I'm in the same boat. I think most of us up here are. And I agree with your point wholeheartedly. Which is why it's imperative to get more businesses on the system so that it starts paying for itself before these huge bills come due, the MUA defaults, the debt falls to the town, and then everybody pays for it anyway. So that's why, we're looking for your input, and we really appreciate anything you want to offer to us in regard to this, because that's the only way this is going to get straightened out. Is we have to get the businesses in, we have to get the businesses in here.
Has a private company been looked at to take over the water and waste management?
I don't think they would with the debt that's involved.
Yeah, the problem with just to explain, so it wasn't just our purchase of the sewer system, right? From Suez, or United Water, how many years ago. The agreement with SCUMA, and you heard a little bit about it in the beginning, is that we have to pay a total debt service to SCUMA every single year, right? So overall, I think right around now, I think we owe them around 24, 25 million still on that debt service, in addition to the expense of buying the system, right? So there are programs out there where you can get funding to have that debt, like you can put the thing up for sale and someone can buy it. But it's got to be able to take on that debt. And if we're talking like, let's say $30 million for the sewer system that we have, I don't want to say like there's going to be no buyers. I'm just saying it's a lot of debt. Yeah.
People like Suez, they're in the business of making money, and that's a lot of debt with not that many users on the system yet.
Yeah, there's no.
If we had a bunch of users hooking up, and then it looked to them, what's going through those pipes starts turning green, there'd be more people interested.
Is there a sliding scale, or is there like a flat fee to get hooked up to the system? Because if you're willing to take a little back step and, cut it.
Right.
Get in, I mean.
Well, we did.
Anyway, it's gonna.
So the connection, go ahead, sorry.
We did reduce the connection fees this year. The connection fees are based on the EDU that your building is rated for. So we did cut those fees this year and try to encourage people to hook up. And hopefully that, there has to be a fee. There just has to be. It's in the bylaws. But we did reduce the fees significantly this past year. And hopefully that'll encourage people to hook up.
I think one of the concerns I have is that we do have an opportunity here to expand this with the local community that we have already. We have reduced the fee. I think it's half what it was.
Yes, yeah.
For Vernon's half of a portion of it, to start attracting those people to do that. And I mean, I believe all of the Mont Drive behind the Dairy Queen is available. If we could add more users to the tune of 60 or 100 a year, this would actually, in the future, would not only stabilize the rates, it could actually bring it down, because we pay for a lump sum of usage now that was agreed upon back in 2013 that we pay for. We are not reaching that potential. Today, we basically expel about 200,000 gallons of waste every day from Vernon, when in fact we pay for over 460,000 gallons. So we have the capacity more than two times the rate of what we're paying for. But because of that agreement that was made back in 2013 and 2015, we are locked into that rate. So for us to be able to reduce the rate to everybody, we've got to add more users. That's where any ideas from commercial to residential, how can we do this? Because it's going to cost us money
Right.
to hook these people.
So do you think along those lines, and you'd mentioned about a sliding scale, so we do have our existing connection fee at half of what it was. Unfortunately, SCUMA still charges like $7,000 per EDU, and we can't do anything about that. Two things. One, I think a sliding scale is a great idea, right? So the more EDUs you have, the less per EDU you're going to pay. And that entices larger businesses to come in, right? And not have to pay such exorbitant connection fees. And then the other thing too is that with SCUMA, for Vernon is the only township in the Upper Wallkill system where we have a rate stabilization fund. And what happens is 60% of the fee for the connection fee that goes to SCUMA, we get back through rate stabilization funds. So with more connections, it gives, even though they get a portion of that, we can use that 60% back to help offset rates. So that's what we did this year. We used $60,000 of their pot that we've had with connections. But obviously that runs out after time if we don't keep having connections. So
Increase because of that, or, I mean.
does it, so anytime.
I don't know about it. This is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, so anytime we have connections, right, they pay SCUMA, they're $7,000 per EDU. And then at the end of the year, SCUMA will say, okay, you now have X number of dollars in your rate stabilization funds that you can utilize moving forward. So that's what we do. And the board has been using those funds. Since I've come on, we've decreased the amount we've used because of 2023 coming up and are concerned about, we don't want to use all of it and then have this huge nut come and really mess up rates. So we're using it, I think, a little bit more responsibly, a smaller amount at a time, but we need more connections to keep that generating, right? So I do like the sliding scale idea. I think we talked about this in months ago. about possibly doing that to, get some larger businesses. I think also for town center with the water project that's going on in town center, you're going to have water at locations that didn't have any even water connection, right? So you'll be able to have water and sewer connected, especially like across the street from the fire department, like those properties. That might be larger properties that you could get a larger developer. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not like, just want to be clear. I don't know. But I like the sliding scale. I think that'll help. And I did want to make note, because I think it's important too. You were talking about like, you might have, Jen, you mentioned you have developers that might come in or a business owner might come in, right? They're not well versed in who they have to go to first, whether it's land use or construction or the MUA. I think it might be good for the MUA and the township to kind of put something together that says like, this is the process you need to go for.
A complete package.
Like if you're located in this location, there are sewers in the area, so you will need to do an application with, the MUA. And if not, like, these are the things that you might need this permit for, this. I think that that's actually a really good idea. And I think that we should probably.
Because when you're all in and then you get hit with those fees, then you get, or you don't have,
Right.
It's not in their budget. And
Right.
Yeah, and new business, it's hard enough to break out right now, and the last thing we want to do is start them off in a deficit.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I have two other comments that are questions. We have any data, you mentioned behind Dairy Queen Mott Drive, do we have a survey of who has replaced their septic? So, one of the things, my sister lives out of town, but one of the things she was looking at, does she invest in a new septic, or does she hook up to her town's, the town sewer, and looking at the different expenses like that. So obviously if people have already invested into new septic systems and such, they're not gonna necessarily want to hook up to a sewer, correct?
Right.
Right?
Right.
So do we know the average age of what these residents have if we're looking to expand into another neighborhood?
So we do get information from the health department, from the county, because they're the ones who handle the septics and stuff, that can tell us which ones have been replaced. And that kind of gives us an indication of like how many need to be replaced. As far as how old they are, I could reach out to the county and see if they have like that kind of detailed information. I might have to go back and see like,
Like if we know the house was built in the 70s and we don't see a permit for where they've replaced, by the 70s, I would think they've replaced it.
Right.
If there wasn't anything done, then we know, especially too, there's a lot of houses moving, so a lot of people have had to redo their septics as part of the contract. But just to see if there's things that are aged there, so that may be a good time because someone's looking at a huge expense right now, and this might be a good decision time to hook up to the sewer. Okay. And another comment or question I had here is, of course, not to go too far off the topic, but we have a lot of cannabis manufacturers, and it was approved for the town. And I know in certain things have to be, cannot be disclosed yet of people who are looking to move in and certain transactions that might take place. I would just assume that they would need to use a whole lot of water in order to do that. Has that been figured into the budget, or do we not have any particular anything secure to a location to where they would be using that water usage?
no. I think if you're talking about, and I'm kind of just speaking off the cuff here. I think if you're talking about in general, if you're talking about like cultivation, if you're talking like somebody using maybe their existing farm or their existing property and turning it into like a cultivation site. I think a lot of those larger properties are probably not near where like town water is or where sewer, right, like where water is. So they're probably using private wells. If they have issues with private wells, then that, I hate to say, like, that's their issue, right? They have to make sure that they have enough to be able to take care of that. I can't think of, I could think of one location on 94 that there's a farm there, I guess, like, I don't know anything about it, but there, like, if somebody decided that they wanted to put something there, like, I know that I think that there's water there along 94, but there's no sewer at that location currently, so.
As far as where the sewers are back,
Yeah.
and where they're allowed to open up that business, but I'm thinking not maybe the most desirable thing that everybody wants in town, but if we are going to have that, if that can help us with our water problem, that would at least alleviate.
Right, and we also have to think about too, I mean, as far as the cannabis goes, there are certain restrictions on locations and where they are and distances from certain locations too. So I think it all has to be taken into consideration. And then, I mean, then you're even talking like, I think they only just finished the first round of licenses from the state.
Mhm.
So like, they're not even, like, I don't even think they're talking about like retail licenses right now. Like the state's not even looking at them now. So I think we're talking a few years to go, but those are some good points. I mean, those are things that need to be brought up to those businesses like, hey, we're not like a town in Bergen County. It's not that you just come in and, oh, you can hook right into water and sewer everywhere you go.
Right, because obviously with the recent kind of turnover in the houses, we are attracting people from those areas up here. And it's a little bit of a culture shock for them. In some cases, in a good way, we choose to live up here for a reason, right? They have to kind of get used to that as well and driving half hour for everything. But they're also kind of looking to plug and play and just go. And we don't have those answers yet, but again, if we can start, coming up with some type of plan and what other types of businesses, I know, like a brewery or something would kind of help save them with the word.
Yeah.
We don't have one. And just trying to, what kind of advantages or anything like that we can give as an incentive for them to come in. Obviously, we can't get things away for free necessarily, but what is it? Is it a discounted rate for the first year or something like that, just to help kind of get them going. Usually a larger business like that, they are going to have the capital to be able to invest into that. It's the smaller businesses that are going to be the ones that are challenged with it. But maybe even the smaller businesses, like, Stephanie mentioned the sliding scale, if it's something that we can do to kind of help to ease them into it and then have the increase.
We do have two for the MUA. If you do have the ability to come to the board and ask for a hardship for connection fees, and you can break it out over a period of time. We did that at first when we first took over and starting.
Because even though you have it, maybe
Right.
many aren't aware of it, so they don't know that.
And that might be something that's right. That might be something that's important to put in this sheet, if you're having issues with. Right. Yeah, because something like that, maybe $15,000 is not affordable for someone right now because they know they're gonna have to pay SCUMA right now, right? But we can say, okay, you can pay it over 3 years or 5 years or
The
whatever.
voting portion.
It's in there, yeah.
Yeah, they still have to pay, it's just not going to be all right.
Right.
One of the things I heard from you sort of in ways that if we had a package where we could say, what is the anticipated cost of hooking up for a resident, say with a 3-bedroom versus a business that's going to use, say, 6 EDUs? I think, do we have those models set up already? Some examples, we don't. It's very hard to do because I know what we were doing for the one up there. It's like, depends on a lot of different things, but I don't know whether we could map one out or not. But it would be very vague. Because I know where you come from, people going, you mentioned about, well, I know it's going to cost me $45,000 for a septic system. How much does it cost me to hook up?
Yeah, because I just did a flip house and it was 30,000. And if I could have hooked up into a waste mat, I would have done that because you never have to replace that again, basically.
Right.
And that's something, it's arbitrary because it moves from application to application, or I should say resident or business, whatever the location is.
It's easy for like a home is easy to compare, that's a straightforward.
Requirements of the, amount of footage away from the well, and,
Maybe we can start with at least a home model and then work our way into a different model, anticipating something of that nature. So something to take into.
Yeah, and like EDUs are calculated differently based on what type of business you have. Office is going to have a lot less EDUs than a restaurant would, right?
car wash.
Or a car wash. Right. Okay, I think we should really, I really like the idea of an info sheet and a packet and to try and work together with the town, and we'll work with you guys to try and get that done.
Yeah, it should be a complete package where they have everything. When you said they have to go back, oh, here, now you need this. I'm like, that would drive me batty.
Go smoother because, even what.
And the package should be and the package should be in order. I think they have to be submitted.
Step 1, step 2.
Yeah, now what,
Mhm.
But,
I think
Yeah, we
that
talked about that.
We love to have, we all budget and like, before I value or something like that, I like to plan it out. So I like to have numbers a little bit closer. And I think also too, especially in these days, with taxes and inflation on the rise, that is something we have to certainly take a look at. And people are going to be looking at closer than, oh yeah, I'm just going to move in. I'll worry about that later. Oh, no big deal. How much should it be? I never know how much it's going to be.
Right.
Right. Makes sense.
And I just want to thank you so much for inviting us here and, asking for our opinion. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
it's all together with what, as a chamber, we can try to do. So thank you. This is just an exception of that.
And if you come into any other things, just reach out to us.
Absolutely.
Please do.
And what I'll do is, I'll email you, and we'll set up a meeting with the mayor and the administrator. So I'll meet like on behalf of the MUA, also the CFO for both of them, and we'll try and come up with something so we can all be on the same page. And I think, since our website for the township is getting redesigned, and the MUA's actually is getting redesigned, then this is like a perfect opportunity to make that stuff available online and kind of make it interactive. Were you new business in town? Yes. Where are you located? Yes. And kind of go from there and get some more information that way too.
'Cause the realtors could use that too, as they're,
Mhm.
they could have that ready for the person. Could make it easier. If
As they're
if the
selling
realtors
it
have
once.
quick access to it, print them out. Okay, here you go. That'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
And then, I'm sorry, your name, you were here from the EDAC? Yes, okay, great, thank you. And I did not catch your name.
Jennifer Loveliner, at the EDAC, and I live in Town Center. And kind of to touch base on most of what I said, we had a conversation about last week. We are actually currently working with the business administrator on a checklist. I have 4 new businesses for the various types of new businesses and what all would be needed. And so we've given him some examples from other towns that we've seen. The only other recommendation that they didn't bring up already was that there are other towns who have a part-time or full-time volunteer person who will do the hand-holding for the businesses and help them as a liaison to the building department and the permit department and the inspectors and all of those kinds of things, just to have somebody coordinate a little bit more. The feedback that we've gotten from a lot of the newer businesses the last 2 years is the bigger business owners that are more experienced with the process don't have any trouble with them burning. They typically know all of what they need and what order it needs to be in and what that process looks like. So they haven't had any trouble. We had really good feedback, for example, from the Skylands Medical Group, who put the urgent care in Vernon, and they were absolutely thrilled with the process in Vernon. They had no trouble. Where the trouble seems to come in is new business owners and small business owners who are not as familiar with that process. So that's where we were thinking the checklist would really come into play and help a lot. And having a digital version online would be a lot more advantage than just the hard copy.
Great, good.
Another thing that we were talking about is helping to market and capture some of the volume of people that come for specific events, like the Spartan race, like the Special Olympics, and kind of lining up the township events to capture those audiences and increase the foot traffic to other events and our local businesses, and how we can try to get those people to come back throughout the year instead of just coming once a year or once every other year for those big events. So we've been working with the mayor on how we can organize that a little bit better and some different ideas that we have to solve that situation. One of the things that we came up with was just the perception of those events in town. If you notice the last big event that we had with the Spartan race, a lot of the signs said warning traffic, take alternate route instead of welcome Spartan race participants, come check out Vernon.
Right.
It's a little bit standoffish to people outside of town when they're coming here. And a lot of the residents' perceptions seem to be like, oh, avoid 94 like the plague because there's going to be traffic. So we're working on how we can change those types of perceptions. And I'm very happy to participate in this meeting with you and build the relationships between the MUA, the EDAC, and the chamber. I think it's really important and vital that we all work together since we do have the same goal and we do all have a lot of the same ideas. So it's important that we're working towards those ideas and goals together rather than everybody duplicating efforts and another related.
That's.
Great. No, that was great.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Okay.
anything else. Yeah, we're good.
Administrator update.
Oh, yeah, that's me. Okay, so just a couple of things. Pump Station 2, the board did receive the Pump Station 2 specs for your review. Steve is on. I know that James was busy tonight, but I know Steve has been working on Pump Station 2. I don't know if Steve has any comments or if the board had any questions specifically about that. Do we know where we are, like with the DEP? I know I got like a very strange email earlier in the week from them, and then they corrected that. But
Yep.
I just wasn't sure where we are in the next step according to your original timeline.
Yep, so I mean, we're still within the timeline. The next step is to basically submit those, let's call them contract documents to iBank for their concurrence. That's partially on the technical contents of it, and it's partially on the contractual contents of it. So we're gonna, based on that package being, prepared, we're ready to submit that, and unless basically we're planning to do that next couple days.
Great. Do you have any questions? Anyone have questions?
Any questions?
On Pump Station 2?
Right now, as far as how far off timeline are we, Steve?
Even
There's a couple of things off on the project timeline that are a little bit off, yes?
yeah, well, I believe it may be the and are you looking at the environmental planning information from iBank?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so that's going back in tomorrow, so I don't think that is gonna affect the bottom line of the schedule, I'll say. Because we're gonna run these contract documents submission to iBank concurrently instead of sequentially. So I don't think that's gonna affect the bottom line to it.
That shouldn't affect the closeout date then, as far as getting construction done, the bids. My concern is the ordering of these different materials, because we've got supply chain
Yep.
issues. Where are we with all of that? Can we make any anticipations?
Yeah, so in some other pump stations that we've been let's say working on, it's a lot of the things aren't too bad. It's some of the electronics related items for the controls of the pumps. But luckily those are items that come or that get installed at the end of the project. Not that, if it was something that got installed in the beginning of the project, that would be more of a concern. But things like the electronics get installed at the end of the project. So hopefully that won't, if it was a piece of pipe that would have, or an underground like manhole, that would have more of an impact on the construction schedule than like the electronics or electrical stuff that goes in at the end of the project. So we're monitoring that and keeping that in mind, but hopefully we can still stay within what we're thinking.
Any of those items that we are a little concerned with, there's any way of putting together like some type of reserving the materials ahead of time?
Yeah, so I mean, some people do that. There is, so what some people or what some utilities do is they pre-purchase some of the materials that get incorporated into the construction job. Unless it's super, but that's not without risk, right? So the contractors may get what the utility bought and said, oh, this doesn't work with what I was thinking, or some other things like that. So it's not without risk, like sometimes you get for a construction job, like a piece of equipment may have a 12 or 18 months lead time. If that's the case and you can get a real head start on it, it's probably advisable to do a pre-purchase like that. But I don't think any of these items warrant a pre-purchase.
Okay. Any thoughts from the rest of the commissioners?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. So the sewer service area mapping, I've been working with Steve and James. And they're gonna have that hopefully ready, but well, we discussed this. They should have it ready by the 13th so that the board can look at that. It'll be an updated sewer service area with the designated town center portion that we talked about in the past. So they will update that mapping, and then we can reevaluate for a request to the DEP for those expanded areas that were not included in the town planning center designation.
They're also going to note where the ESA areas are that we were not able to acquire.
Well, those would kind of be delineated in the mapping. Those would be why we didn't, why they were not included.
Okay.
So the good example is there's three properties between Healthy Time and Wings. Those three properties are not
They're not in the map.
they will not be in the map because of the ESA 25.
Yeah. And so we're trying to do our best to show all these different factors and different, expansion areas, old area, new area, town center area, ESA area, without making the map too confusing or complicated or busy. But we're trying to, make it as informative as possible without being too difficult to look at.
Okay.
Updates on capital items. We obviously attached our spreadsheet. We will be moving forward. I met with James regarding, there's 3 ditches on the sewer easement near pump station 1. So James and I met we've already discussed the first ditch in that easement. And James had sent around a memo about what we're gonna do. After discussions with Howie and then James, we will be filling it with some larger river rocks to prevent, them from just washing away. So that'll get taken care of. But we did find ditches 2 and 3. So we will be addressing that. The township will be addressing ditch 3 as part of their the trail system that was just awarded. I think it's because it's the responsibility of the MUA, and I've spoken with the township engineer, the portion of that it's not very expensive. I think it would be in the best interest for the MUA to just reimburse the township. It was part of the bid specs, which means we probably got a very large discount if we would have done it ourselves and paid for it ourselves. So I think it's a good thing and it's part of that project, and we could just easily reimburse the township for that small cost. I think the engineer estimated it less than 10,000. So it's a very large ditch, like a very large ditch. Don't walk over there unless unless it's cleared out. You'll lose your whole body in there.
I know.
Yeah. And then ditch 2, we want to address as well. I spoke with Howie. I'm going to speak with the director of the DPW about getting the guys out there early in the spring next year and clearing out over the actual sewer lines, which has not been done in the past. They've just done, there's a general path that's always been cleared, but we want it directly over the lines to make sure we can see directly over the lines and fill in what we got to fill in. So I know James, I think, was going to update that memo just on those other 2 so that the board would have something official to discuss what we need to do on what needs to be done for the other 2.
This is a question for Howie. I mean, when we talk about clearing that ditch, the line, the area where the line is, I don't know whether the town has like a bush hog or something like that so they can go up the line with it. Will they do that for us instead?
We did have that, and we do have it, but the slope of that is probably.
That's pretty sloped.
Yeah.
It's too dangerous.
It's a good hike up the hill.
Okay.
Okay, so water infrastructure, we did meet with Suez again. It was a good discussion with them. So we're just waiting on some boilerplate documentation because we need to have 2 agreements. It would be one for purchasing water and then one for the actual, what am I trying to say, franchise area. So that was a good conversation with them. I did reach out to the township auditor about a couple of questions I had regarding the ARP funds and ownership of the lines and all that other stuff. So I'm dealing with that on the township side, but I just wanted to update the board and let them know that that is moving forward because I know that project started here. The sewer easement at Mountain Creek, the last time when we walked the sewer line down the railroad, We did take note that the property where the old Atlantic Health Systems building is, that urgent care, the sewer line runs up towards pump station or towards Route 94 there. And there's some overgrowth of trees. I mean, you know, there's like a little creek there or something. So I did reach out to Mountain Creek and he said he was going to take care of it, that they would get some mapping on what needs to be cleared out and they'd take care of it themselves.
Very good.
So I will touch base with him probably in a couple of weeks about that, because I don't expect it to be done right now in the winter months. But maybe a good timeline on when he thinks that'll get done. Regarding finance, obviously, we just introduced the budget and the adoption is scheduled for the 20th next month. I did want to update the board and let them know that there are some large balances that are outstanding. You know, people have until the end of the month to pay for the fourth quarter, but there are some large balances outstanding. But the commercial and residential, the building department's been notified. So, and they've been pretty good about being on top of not issuing permits or anything like that, unless those are paid. And capital projects. So I will be meeting with the license operator, as well as the engineers. This is the first time you're hearing it, Steve, to ascertain like the project timelines and priorities for 2022. This past year, we did talk about the force main that is along the railroad, because there's no real way, like, you know, with the other force main, we have air release valves we could put cameras into and do that. We don't really have that on this force main. So we talked about a couple of things that we could do this past year. And I think the board kind of wanted to see that done for this upcoming year, so that we really know the integrity of that force main and where we stand. Also, we will be either replacing pump station 3 with a prefab structure, meaning not pump station 3, like the building that's there, not the pump station, or we'll be repairing pump station 3, the building. We did have 2 people come out and give us quotes. I think we're still waiting on the second one. Did he get back
Somebody's
to us?
going to drop it off.
Okay. The first one didn't seem like that much money, but the second person said they're gonna have to do some more excavating behind the building because of the way the slope is and stuff, to reside it. So we'll see which is the least expensive thing to do. Howie and I had a long conversation about whether or not we could just put a prefab, like a large shed there. Because there's already the
base.
Yes. I was like, what is that called? The slab. Thank you. The slab, the concrete slab is there. So we'll be doing that next year. And yeah, the drainage ditches will be included in that as well as part of our larger capital projects I have for next year. And that's all I have.
Going back a little bit on the connection for water, do we have a process and a way for somebody wants to connect with water? Is that already developed in our system here, or do we need to put one in? The customer wants to come in, says, in now. How do they connect?
So that's a whole, we will have to determine a connection fee. We will have to determine rates. We will have to do all of that.
We're starting square one on it.
We are starting square one on that.
When do we start that process?
Well, I think we need to get the actual line put in. So we're working on just installing the dry line, right?
Right.
It's our first part of the project, and it's still going to be dry until we connect the loop up, right? And that's all also part of negotiations, different properties, what are going to be in our franchise area versus what's going to be in Suez. Things are a little scattered if you look at who has what. And I think you guys have gotten those maps in the past. So we're discussing that. But as far as the actual process, I mean, I think we all know the theory behind it, but we need the actual dollar amounts, what it's going to cost, what the actual process is when the water mains are installed. I don't know, Steve, regarding the dry water mains, are we putting like like with the sewer mains, we put the connection, what is that?
The sewer lateral.
Yeah, the lateral. Thank you. Are we doing that with water as well for the main that we're putting in, or no?
Good question. Let me verify that. Oftentimes you would tap the pipe,
right,
and bring the required service to the, whether or not there's really a curb there, for lack of a better term, I'll say to the curb or to the property line.
Right.
So that when the homeowner or business owner goes to connect, they don't need to dig up the street. So and excavate the pipe. So that would normally be done. Let me double check that we're doing that.
Okay. Yeah, it's similar to what we would do with sewer.
I'm just,
And then those people are responsible, obviously, for connecting themselves. Mhm.
I'm just trying to be a little bit proactive here and thinking about, all right, once we get these lines in, are we ready to start selling water?
Right,
People
right.
want to connect. So I'm thinking, can we be more proactive in starting to establish that process? So
Mhm.
the applications can start coming in. And I actually would like to see the applications come in before before the water gets started. So we know who we have for customers ahead of time.
I agree.
Okay.
I just think that would be the right way to go.
Anyone else? Okay. Ellie, I guess.
Elections operator report, Howie?
Yes, Danell, you covered a lot of it pretty much here in that, in your report, but
Sorry, Howie.
no, that's okay. Just overall, the system's been running smoothly this past month here and quiet. As you guys know, we will be losing one of our repairers due to he's shifting over to the DPW, start of the new year. We've been doing some interviews. We did find one as of right now. Deshaun will be starting. Danell, with that, my request would be sooner than later,
Yeah, Monday.
just so that way we can train him and get the proper training while weather's permitting.
Yep.
And then my other suggestion would be that Matt would stay on to help him and help our other new hire in January.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that that's probably what you would do over at the DPW. You would be sending Matt over.
Yes. But again, all the stations are good. Lift stations are all clean. Just want to remind the board, as I wrote into the license operator report, I do speak with the guys every day before they come in, while they're in, and after they're in. I sit with them at the DPW just to go over how everything's running and what their day-to-day operation was, and just to make sure everything is going smoothly. And I will continue that with the new guys and with Matt until he's fully committed to the DPW to make sure the training goes well. And then my only question to Danell and the board is that Chris wrote up the staircase in pump station 2 for safety.
Mhm.
We did get that checked. It did pass. I don't know how often we would want to get that checked. Monthly? I don't really know. I don't have an answer for that.
What's the issue with the staircase?
It's just that it's inside the building and it's got a little bit of rust on it, and I don't have an issue with it, and I haven't seen an issue with it. Like I said, we had it inspected. It passed.
Structurally, it's sound.
Yes.
I think there might be certain
Surface
requirements based on like today's standards, but because we're replacing all of pump station 2 within the next less than a year.
So
Yeah, when we spoke to our safety consultant, Dave Smith, this past year, because that's what we're doing that annually now, is having the safety consultant come out. He said that, yes, if we were not replacing the station, then yeah, we'd have to replace the staircase, but
Right.
because based on the standards of how wide it is, what, how high the railings are, all that other
Okay,
stuff.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, so it is passed on our end. The backup operator puts it in his reports, but that is a good point. Like, there are some things that the backup operator does put in the reports that like we are aware of, but they're not, for pump station 2, we're aware, and yes, he
Right.
puts them in there, but that'll be addressed because the whole thing's gonna get
You're
replaced.
not gonna put new stairs in and then.
Right, and he does make comments too about pump station 3 in all of his reports, and obviously we are working on pump station 3 to replace pump station 3 building,
Right.
right? So, yeah.
But to
Yes.
answer,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Howie.
On pump station 3, like Danelle had said before, we did talk about it. My recommendations is to redo the building, not put a new slab on there or a new shed, as we
Mhm.
spoke about, just because of the electrical and the water that we
Right.
have in there.
Right, it would cost a lot with the electrical.
Yes.
Regarding how you asked the commissioners here whether or not about a frequency on the inspections for pump station 2 on the stairway? Did I understand that correctly? What is your thought process there as far how often should it be inspected?
Well, as Danelle said, it annually. I mean, we check it every time we go in there, and it's been the same since I started on this in 2011. I have not seen any deterioration on it going south. We've actually put boards up on there because that's what they wanted in the past, because it was an open railing and you're going over top of the tanks. So it has not gotten down.
If you don't see a concern with it, then I guess continue that way unless somebody wants to do it every 6 months.
Yeah, you guys are familiar with it. And if the safety consultant said it's okay until we replace it, unless you see anything, that changes.
Okay. Then I just got one other question to know about the 3 ditches.
Yeah.
I do know about the first one that we looked at a couple months ago.
Yeah, the one right in the front, yep.
Yep, I do know about the second one. But from what I know of the second one, it's down towards the bottom and it's pretty steep. But that has nothing, I don't even think our main's in there.
Right, so there's like 3. The second one is actually, it's not that bad. I think you're talking probably about the third one. It's like further down, it's down all like closer to the PAL property.
Yes.
And it's pretty big. It's like a little ravine.
Yeah,
So our line, where it is on the path, there's no sewer line right there. But further up, like, because that goes up, like up the hill, the sewer line is at the top there. So I did have to cross like that huge ditch to get to where the manhole is on the other side, even though it's higher up, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we will have to fill in, well, the town is filling in that whole area to make sure that it's stable for, a walking bike path.
Okay.
So I believe that area is right over our sewer line where they're going to make sure that it's stable. Further down that ditch, I'll talk to Corey, but I think he's filling the whole thing. I think he's putting a pipe in. I gotta talk to Corey about the specifics because I think he's putting a pipe in with a cover over it.
Okay, that's in the deep one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I have to yell because it's there, but then I realize it's right there.
That's it, Howie?
Yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Engineer report. Got anything else, Steve?
I know I went over so
I mean,
much.
the only thing I wanted to add that Donnell did not cover previously is we're just doing one EDU update calculation for 310 Route 94. We'll have that over to Jackie and Donnell in the next day or two.
That is for the urgent care at Highlands. It's taking over that.
When do you anticipate the bids going out for PS2 and?
So that all has to be, this is what Steve was talking about. So they're sending over the contract and bid specs and all that other stuff to iBank. iBank has to approve all that language before it goes out. So the engineers worked with it, the township QPA worked on it to make sure all the specific language is in there that needs to be in there for the bids. But ultimately, iBank needs to approve it before it goes out. And before it goes out, the township needs to pass a bond ordinance to issue the debt. And it's like gotta be all timed right, because it'll go out, it gets awarded, and then.
So if we were to guess, I mean, I know it's hard to do with iBank, but how long do you think it'll take before we actually put the bid out? If you can even hazard a guess, I don't know that you could, I'm just.
Yeah, I know once, when we spoke with iBank a couple of months ago, they said that from the time they review the document until you're done and you're kind of closed is very short period of time. It's going through the bid specs and all other stuff that might take a bit of time. How long? I don't know. I mean, Steve could probably speak to that,
Yeah.
but. it's
Well,
up to-
I mean, so we're hoping we're a few months away. There are some nightmare stories of dealing with iBank. And I don't expect that we will encounter those. So, it'd be towards the end of the winter, a few months away.
That's counting the iBank part, right? How about specifically on your end, the bid specs in general?
And they're in pretty good, they aren't like 100% complete, but they're more or less complete right now.
So you're about ready to go and move them along.
That's right.
Okay.
So the schedule that we have shows the bid period starting on February 4th. And you just said the end of winter, Steve, so.
Oh, yeah, I stand corrected, Kristen.
So we do expect the bid period will start February 4th.
That's what we're currently planning for, yes.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks.
And that's with anticipated cooperation from iBank. So hopefully
Right,
that-
right. Yep, understood.
Thank you.
Yeah, I stand corrected.
Like to open it to the public for items that are not on the agenda. Make a motion.
Motion to open the public for items not on the agenda.
For a second.
Second,
Okay. I have Peg Gustafsi raising her hand.
Okay.
Thank you for acknowledging me. I'll take it in the order of your agenda so I don't lose my place. I want to, first of all, congratulate the two new chairperson and vice chair for their elections. The next thing is I want to thank you for considering my suggestion that you gradually increase your fees instead of hitting them all at one time down the road. I think that will be much easier to swallow in an inflationary time period that we are sadly going into over the next couple of years. I would like to ask and suggest that the bill, maybe I'm missing it, but I could not find a listing of the bills on your website. Only the approval 2157. So I would like to ask if it's possible to post the bills and what are being paid so they can be reviewed by the public. That would be greatly appreciated. For your discussion on infrastructure, I think you have a good plan. I think what's really important is that you coordinate with the township to make the process easier. I think that it has been difficult. As a developer in town, my husband and I have developed properties in town for many years. It has always been a little difficult to coordinate between the different departments. So if you can do something to make it easier for the MUA and the zoning and building department to be able to assist that, I think will be a big advantage for all concerned. Otherwise, I want to say, I think you're doing a great job. Keep up work. And I look forward to continued success. Thank you for allowing me to make my comments, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Thank you, Peg.
Merry Christmas.
You're
Peg.
welcome. Merry Christmas.
Okay. I also have Jesse Palladini.
Hi again. I have a couple of things if you don't mind. First, I want to echo Peg. I wanted to say congratulations to Paul Carney. If you read Inside Vernon today, you would see that I had suggested that the chairperson be either you or Kristen Wheaton. So I'm glad to see that you are the chair, and congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Paul. And I'm also glad that you took the suggestion of the public. I think that Peg's idea was a great one. And as I said, I had not thought of it before I heard her say it. Another just very quick thing is that I'd really like to see you not add resolutions to the agenda when you get there. It really shouldn't happen, except for maybe in the most extreme of circumstances, because that agenda goes out to the public, and the public should always be able to know what you're doing and what you're not doing. Can you tell me the status of the appeal with the township and the SCMUA?
The township did appeal the filing. That's all we're gonna say.
Well, I'm just asking for the status. Has it been adjudicated? Has it not? I'm not asking you to give me details.
I'm just gonna say that, that we've filed for appeal. That's all.
And you're not going to say whether or not there's been a decision yet.
No, no.
I'm sorry. You're not going to say, or there's been no decision yet?
No, I'm not going to discuss that. And our legal counsel's no longer on the meeting for personal reasons. So we're not going to discuss that.
Okay, well, you realize I'm just asking what's public, a simple question. Has the case been heard or not? That's all I'm asking. Has there been a hearing? Has it been heard? You're being ridiculous and telling me that you're not going to say anything. I'm not asking specifics. I'm asking, has it been heard? Has the appeal been heard? Yes, no, that's a simple answer. Okay, I guess I'll have to put in an Oprah. Unbelievable. There are still some users, or supposed to be users, along the line that are not hooked up. And what's the status on that? Namely Green Team Realty, because when we were in that building as the Historical Society, on multiple occasions, we, the Historical Society, offered to pay for the hookup. And we were told every time, no, don't do it, by the Board of Ed. So why do they get a pass and not have to hook up? Law says that every person along the sewer line has to hook up. Why haven't they?
Good questions to be asked.
Yeah, that
We'll
is.
have to look into it.
Jesse, and it's something we have to look into.
right,
I couldn't give you the answer to that question right now. To be
Okay,
honest.
that's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, Ms. Palladini. I just wanted to remind everyone in the public that this would be public comment section, so we don't necessarily need to answer, but I do want to tell you that they did hook up to the sewer system.
Okay,
So, yes.
okay.
So that was taken care of. This board took care of it this year.
All right, that's a good thing to know. Thank you for telling me that. I think that's it. Just give me 1 second. Oh, you cannot hear anything with this new system with the way they've got it. First of all, we're looking down on the MUA or the people seated there like a bird's eye view, and we could hear you, but the public is just not heard at all. So I mentioned this to the new incoming council, and I just want to make you aware of it. You really cannot hear from home. So something needs to be done to fix that. And the last thing I want to say is, what was the $10,000 that you mentioned that you would pay the town? I couldn't hear that at all.
Okay, so just two things, because I will comment on this, so that everybody knows. I know administration is working on getting another microphone up where the public speaks. So right now, we not only have like these microphones, probably can't see me moving it, but we have the regular council chamber microphones, and then we do have ones that are connected to the actual computer. So that's how you can hear us really well, but we don't have ones that are out for the public. I think it's just because of where it's located and where the actual system is. So we are working on that to try and figure out a fix for that, so that people can hear us better online. And regarding the drainage, so the drainage, there's a drainage ditch, we call it drainage ditch 3, because there's 3 along the sewer easement near pump station 1. That drainage ditch, the MUA is responsible for, ensuring its safety, ensuring the integrity of the main that's underneath it. So because of erosion over time, that drainage ditch does need to be not filled. There needs to be I'm terrible with this. I don't know if Steve is still on it, but there's a pipe that goes through and there's like a covering that goes over it and some rock that's put around that. What am I trying? Yeah, it's like a head wall? Head wall. I keep on saying a wellhead and I'm like, that's not right. A head wall. So that needs to be installed. The MUA would ordinarily do that themselves because of where the township's bike and walking path is, because of the ease of access in that area. It was included in the bid specs, which actually is a benefit to everybody involved, because going out to bid for a project like that would decrease the cost overall to do a project like that versus if the MUA were to do that themselves.
Okay, thank you. You don't have to be so elaborate. I just didn't hear it all. That's why I asked. So I believe that's all that I have, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all.
Same to you.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Donnell, if I could just clarify, did you say that Green Realty has now connected?
Yes.
There's no indication about what the issues are.
It's not connected in the front, it's connected in the back. The sewer lines do not run along 94, they run in the back of it. Yeah. I know, I would have thought the same thing. Yep. Mhm.
Thank you.
Anybody else there from the public?
No, I don't have anyone else.
Nobody else from the public? Make a motion to close this public session?
Motion to close this public comment session.
Got a
I'll second that.
Thank you. Commissioners' comments. Let's start with Dave.
I have no comments at this time.
Thank you. Kristen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I guess I would just like to say thank you to Mike Fury for his contribution to this board's success. I know we've discussed it a couple of times throughout the year, but I think really would like to recognize, his leadership and direction that helped us accomplish so much of late. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. So I guess I would suggest that we consider a token of recognition for his leadership. Second thing, with the discussion from the Chamber of Commerce, we were talking about, it was brought up about a checklist for applicants, for new business owners to kind of help to shepherd them through the process. Peg mentioned that, Peg DeStassi mentioned that she was a developer at times in the town. And I think, we can do our part for the MUA to assist with that checklist, but so much of that is going to come from the town itself and the building department and the planning board. And I guess, so my couple of thoughts on that are that it may behoove us or to ask a developer themselves to assist with the development of that checklist and process, because those are the people who have lived and breathed, you know, some of these headaches and difficulties. And so I think the developers, you know, a developer themselves would have that firsthand knowledge to kind of help to write that that and define that process for others. So I'm not sure who that person is, but that's, you know, that's just a suggestion. And that concludes my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Andy.
All right, my comments. First of all, one of the things from a business standpoint, we now have 2 alternate positions open that we need to fill. So we need to make sure we go through the process of checking with Josh and with Rich and how to go through that. So we can open that up and get the applications done.
So that's a township council prerogative.
Okay.
And as far as like posting positions to boards and commissions, those do not need to be advertised or posted.
So we do not need to post those 2 alternate positions for the record.
For the record.
Okay, cool. I want to say, Howie, to you and the repairers, thank you for all the diligence in keeping the repairs up. And upgrades that we've been pushing with these capital expenditures. I think this has been a good year for a lot of great improvements, and Steve and the engineering team keep supporting them, and let's keep moving this forward. Jackie and Danelle, what an outstanding year. A lot of work, a lot of, oh, she's not even here now. Is she there? Oh, I can't see her.
Something for her, I would.
Thank you for, you know, you coming on has been a blessing, but Danelle, your diligence and your energy, it's and tenacity to getting things done.
Thank you.
The MUA has been moving along at a very good pace. Mike Fury, a great asset that helped get us started and moving in the right directions. Definitely a bulldog, definitely a bit of the Rottweiler and driving to get things done, but he has set a place for us and made it all happen. And Paul Carney, glad to have you as chair. Your experience will help us move forward with it. With that, I think we've had a lot of comments from how to expand the marketing. This is important. We've got to build more connections, and I think that's important that we continue to do that. So it's I think that should be a #1 priority, and maybe something we put on a project charter for next year. We have 5 charters. We have the finance, we have HR, we have
Station,
what is it?
pump station,
Pump station, and then we have
add
benefits.
water too.
Right, so I think this is one we should think about adding as a charter for marketing, how to grow. So that, if we have these charters, they kind of keep us focused. With that, I'd like to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all, Happy Holidays, and thank you for the opportunity to serve. That's my comments for tonight.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks for the opportunity to serve as chair. I'm honored. Kristen and Andy, you both touched on things that I was going to talk about, so I don't really have to hit on them too hard. But one of them is I thank Mike Fury as well. Mike came on this board and not that it was rudderless, I would never say that, but Mike definitely gave us direction, gave us some drive and pointed us in a good way. I know Mike stepped down as the chair due to his position appointed to the council. So there's a conflict. And if Mike decides to put in for one of the empty seats, the alternate seats, I endorse him being put back on this board. If that was to happen, I think it'll be a positive for us. And Kristen said to give him some recognition, and I had written something down about that. In the past, since I came onto this this board, whenever there was an outgoing commissioner or chairman, there was always some kind of recognition where they were given a plaque thanking them for their time served. Because, taking time out of their personal lives, it's not a paid position, it's a volunteer thing. And there's been a number of people that have come through here that haven't received, that recognition from us. And I think it's something we should do. Go back to John Perry, there was a couple of people before him, and I think a couple after. It's not a large expense, but I think it's something that we did in the past and we should continue to do, just to give a little token of appreciation for people who put their time in for the town that they live in. It's not a lot to ask, and I think that it's something that we should definitely do retroactively to some people. We have these hybrid meetings now. They can, if they want to, invite them down when these are made, and we could hand them to them in person, or we could arrange some other way to give them to them. But I just, want people recognized for what they've done and the time they've put in on this MUA. And happy holidays to everybody. That's it for me.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll just say, thanks, Paul. And I think we should do a plaque. Maybe the way to do that is to draft a resolution for the next meeting. I don't know if it has to be as formal as a resolution, but I think we might have passed a resolution at one time for such a thing.
What was there, like about 5 people that we haven't done it for, that were on this board when you and I were on together, since you and I were on, that we didn't acknowledge. So I have to go back and look and even start remembering who they were, but it's more than just Mike. There's a number
I'll
of
pull them.
people.
We'll pull the information.
Yeah, just
I'll get
pull the
full website.
information and we'll just, if we have to do a resolution, we'll do it for a resolution for all of them, and then we'll take care of it in one fell swoop.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, then somebody make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
All right, everybody.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night,
Hey, happy holidays, everyone.
Happy
Happy holidays.
everyone. Yeah. Happy
Cheers.
happy holidays.